fuel subsidy has put Nigerians into difficult situations, but still the government are not relenting, trying to find ways that they will bring succor to the situation. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. This is Nigeria Now on Equa Television. I'm Sambo Solomon and with me I have Joyce Jakada.
Pleasant afternoon to you, Sambo Solomon.
Yes, looking good.
Thank you, as always. You look good too.
Thank you. You know, for the viewer out there, please do well to join us in this conversation just to make the show interesting. From wherever you will be joining us, let's know your view. This is Nigeria Now, and then let's discuss the burning issues. And today we are going to look at the issue of fuel subsidy. You know, now the federal government are seeking ways, you know, to bring relief to Nigerians, and then because of that, you know, the present administration led by Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu is seeking for approval from the National Assembly for the sum of 500 billion naira.
Well, the issue of the removal of the fuel subsidy is something that every Nigerian can actually relate to. You would recall that it was on the day of the inauguration of the present administration, the president, on May 29th, that he made that announcement, having emerged as the 16th president of Nigeria. He said the issue of fuel subsidy is gone. And then we saw how that immediately that generated a lot of reaction from the NNPCL and announcing that petroleum should be sold between 488 to 587, and then we saw how that immediately so many filling stations responded to that, depending on the location. And then we saw that it was more like an increase of over 200% on the previous price that was sold below 200 naira, and that generated a lot of reaction. While some people were celebrating, because the issue of the removal is one that people have over the time clamored for, because it was really some few individuals that were actually benefiting from that fuel subsidy. We saw how that humongous amount of money could not be accounted for, but 16 trillion naira that was budgeted for fuel subsidy. We saw how that day in, day out, vessels are being loaded and with crude oil just to be taken to other West African countries. We saw that how the removal of the fuel subsidy met protests by tricycle riders, even in Cameroon, saying that, oh, they are going to increase transport fare because Nigeria have removed fuel subsidy. That's to tell you how that for years now, people have been like making money at the detriment of the growth of other sectors in Nigeria. And so some individuals, yes, celebrated it. A lot of Nigerians actually celebrated the removal. But the common man would tell you he doesn't care about all these policies and the rest. What he wants is improvement in his own welfare. He should be able to have access to healthcare facilities. His children should be able to access education. He should have good roads. There should be infrastructural development. That is how he relates to governance. And but just to say, oh, in technical terms, we have done this, and then he's seeing that he has to pay double or even up to 200% on transportation, increase in transport fare, increase in the price of petroleum product, increase in price of goods and services. Like he cannot celebrate such a move by the president, and that is why we saw the NLC as well as the TUC like reacting, threatening that they are going to shut down the nation with strike. But we saw along the line after their meeting, romance with the federal government, that's ended, and it was more like committees have been set up. We're going to look into demands. The demands are going to be shared long time, short time, mid-term, and all of that. And Nigerians were promised some weeks back that in 8 weeks' time, they are going to come up with something, suggestions such as CNG buses to operate, and amongst others were actually given. Some actually prefer, oh, can we have some salary increment, like the TUC suggested, 200,000 minimum wage. Others talk about the fact that if allowances can be given to civil servants to cushion that effect, is going to be needful. But some Nigerians reacted to that saying, oh, it's more like all the plans to cushion the effect is just ghetto what? Civil servants. So what about us that are not government workers, but we are Nigerians? We go out daily, we buy goods, we assess services. What's like, where lies our fate and all of that. We saw how the likes of Kwara State governor saying, oh, civil servant can come to work just 3 times a week, and then in Plateau State during the examination of the University of Jos, the governor of Plateau State offered buses to carry students from their hostels to the school, convey them back off campuses and other places, which was a good move. But like I said, is that enough for the whole Nigeria? We're just talking about few states that try to do something for a very minimal percentage of its citizens. More needs to be done, and weeks after or months after the removal, Nigerians are still faced with hardship. It was the World Bank that reported that in urban cities alone, we have about 4% of people thrown into, like additional 4% of people have been thrown into poverty, and in rural area about 11% have been thrown into poverty due to the removal of the fuel subsidy. Like millions of people between January and May were also added into the poverty line. And we saw how that the decision to remove the fuel subsidy due to the hike in prices of goods and services had thrown more people to poverty line. And it is in a bid to actually mitigate the impacts, the effect of the fuel subsidy removal, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a letter requested that the National Assembly consider 500 billion naira request, and that is so that it can help him provide palliatives that will help cushion the effect. And this 500 billion naira, it is out of the supplementary budget of 2022 of 819 billion naira that, recall, President Muhammadu Buhari actually made provision for, and that was because of the flooding that took place and the need for infrastructural development, that he made that provision for supplementary budget of 819 billion naira. And it is out of that, you recall that this budget was extended to 31st of December, and it is out of this budget that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is requesting for 500 billion naira so that it can help him come up with palliative to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. Again, some Nigerians will be asking, since the removal of fuel subsidy, like Sarah was saying, can you give account of what the money, at least you've been able to save some reasonable amount of money. We saw how the World Bank said that if Nigerians continue with the removal of fuel subsidy by 2025, like they will have trillions of naira being saved from this fuel subsidy removal if it doesn't end up in some individual's pocket. So from between May and now, that the 1st of June that it took effect to now, how much have we been able to save? It was what Sarah was asking for. Can you give account of spending or how you intend to spend it? Because we are seeing that the president is requesting that from the supplementary budget of 819 billion naira, 500 billion naira should be given as to be given to him, to be considered, so that he can help come up with palliatives to actually cushion the effect. We can't deny the fact that the impact is actually negative on Nigerians, and more of the burden being passed to the common man, because you are the one that will have to toil, go to the market, you have to access services, you have to buy products or in which all the prices have hiked. It is the common man that will have to go and stop public transport, and he is paying double. It is that common man that is yet to receive the 30,000 minimum wage that we've seen that most states are yet to implement. It is that common man that can barely feed. It is that common man that is feeding from hand to mouth that is being left to feel the impact of this fuel subsidy removal. So trying to reverse by providing palliative is a good one. Recall that we applauded that removal, but we were concerned about the methodology and what has been put in place so that people will not feel the impact. At least we should be talking about education. Oh, now because of the removal, we should have more access, free access to education, free access to healthcare. People should feel that other sectors are waxing strong. That way they won't feel the impact. But by the time you remove remove fuel subsidy and there's no palliative, and then people are just suffering. We can't deny the fact, people are suffering, people are in pain, people are dying of hunger, and that's why the president needs to do something urgently. As we speak right now, that because of insecurity, there are some people that are not in their homes. They are languishing at the IDP camps. We can't deny the fact more than half of our population are living within poverty line. It is sad. It is depressing, and something needs to be done urgently about that.
Well, we just pray that the National Assembly will do the needful. But my concern is that, you know, in his letter, there is no description of how the money will be spent. So, and I think is an area of concern, because if you are asking that you want to give palliative and this is the money we are spending, I think some figures should be allocated in order to follow issue of accountability. Because if you say you are providing transport, you know, how much are you spending on transport?
You know, as a nation, this has always been our challenge, accountability, transparency. And not until we get it right in these areas, we keep going back and forth. And no wonder you see loots are recovered and they are relooted, because we are not giving accounts of how monies are being spent and how monies are being allocated. And so it is needful that in this kind of money there should be vivid description. You will recall that when suggestions were coming up on cushioning the effect of palliative, some people suggested, oh, can we identify the poorest of the poor and give them 5,000 naira? And Nigerians asked, what measures will you use to identify the poorest of the poor? Because in time past, we've seen how the policies were brought that will help the poorest of the poor, but it ends up with the elite, with the rich. The people that are being saddled with the responsibility of identifying gave such opportunity to their families and their friends. We saw that people that were supposed to be giving scholarship to federal institutions, they don't even have access. Their parents have to work day and night to send them to school, and people who can afford it decide to put their relatives in scholarship. I've been to federal university, and not until I graduated, I have never for once collected anything that was allocated as scholarship. So these are some of the concerns that a lot of people have asked. No, not until we take accountability, like we give priority to that area, not until we start explaining to Nigerians. That way, you see leaders doing the needful. But when we don't take accountability serious, people will get away with a lot of things.
And I think Nigerians should own up and then take a responsibility, you know, be involved in the governance. Because every time you will hear Syrup are the ones taking the government to court, asking certain questions that Nigerians are supposed to come out in mass and ask those questions, and then for them to get those answers, you know, but we don't see that. But anyway, we are growing because the information coming to us is that Nigerians are getting more informed and Nigerians are getting more involved. But what we are trying to say is not enough. We have to do more. The issue of insecurity, you remember we talked about it here, you know, how the incessant killing, you know, that is happening in this country, you know, the constant attack, you know, and then killing innocent people. You talk about an eight-month baby, you know, that was massacred, you know. That baby, I guess the baby is crawling, but you can imagine, you will ask yourself, what wrong? What wrong? That little infant, you know, it has nothing to do with what is happening, whether issue of governance or issue of land or someone win election or lost election, you know, that infant doesn't have anything to do, but just look at it, you know. But with that, the government are coming this time around with the security apparatus. They are coming, particularly the army, are then asking the governors to give them free hand to fight these terrorists.
I think this is very timely that we're seeing the security arm saying that, oh, governors should actually give them free hand to eliminate terrorists. This is not time to romance terrorists, to dialogue with terrorists, but it's time to eliminate them so that Nigerians can enjoy their fundamental human rights of not just life, but human right to movement, right to association, and even religion. And I think I quite agree with the security apparatus calling on the government governors to give them free hand to deal with that. We've seen how in the time past, how governors are actually romancing, are actually dialoguing, are actually taking pictures with even bandits, saying, no, we don't need to be harsh on them. We should apply what former late President Musa Yar'Adua did to the militants in the south by granting them amnesty and all of that. And we saw how that in some states, some governors actually dialogued with them, but what did it produce? Till today, as we speak, insecurity is still waxing strong in those regions. It was the former Zamfara state governor that we saw having pictures with some of these people. But after then, what has it produced? Because it was just this week that 4 police men were killed in Zamfara state. So this is the time to eliminate completely terrorists. For 10 years. 10 years, terrorists are still waxing strong in our country. Like it was Boko Haram, it now became bandits, now kidnapping and different forms of crimes. And then we cannot do anything about it. Well, I like the fact that just yesterday, the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Taoreed Lagbaja, at the Army headquarters in Abuja, while playing host to the Zamfara State Governor, Dauda Lawal, called on governors to actually give troops free hand to eliminate the criminals in their in their territory. It was a good call on the governors, because what you see happening in most of these states in the country is more like, oh, this terrorist group are actually being romanced. Because how can you come and kill people today, the next morning you still come, a day after you are still there, and then nobody is being arrested, nobody is being persecuted. These people come even in the presence of securities and still kill and still go, like they still move without nobody arresting them. You are talking about 8-month-old baby that was killed, and you are asking the question, what was the baby's offense? Being in Nigeria is the offense. And the situation, just like the president said, is depressing, is uncalled for, is unfortunate. And not until we rise to the occasion by speaking against this evil, then it will keep staring at us in the face. It is not just Plateau. We're talking about some part of Benue. We're talking about even the north, even the south. There are agitations over successionism and all of that, and it has led to killings of a lot of people losing their lives. We can't fold our arms and just leave our country to enemies of our growth and development. And not until the governors and every stakeholder puts his or her hands together to ensure that these people are being eliminated, then we'll keep going back and forth with this issue. Like in Plateau State alone, we are just talking about a particular state, about 300 people just within this year, between May and July, have been killed. And not just these people that are being killed, we also have about 30,000 people that are being displaced. This situation is worrisome. Like these people gagging against the citizens' right to life. If I have right to life, why should I be sleeping with weapon beside me? Why should I be sleeping with one eye closed because I don't know what happened, what next is going to happen? Why should I be walking in my own state and like I'm walking in fear? I can't travel in my own country because I don't know, because of the fear of the unknown. We must restore the peace of this country. We must make sure that this country unites and enjoy the peace that it ought to. I don't know what our founding fathers, I don't know what the heroes of our faith, how they feel at this moment, looking at the nation that they fought for it to stand. So it is time that I think our president, the state governors, the security apparatus rise to their responsibility. Recall that when the service chiefs were appointed, we're talking about the expectations. And in few months, Nigerians will start counting their performance. They are going to be checking their performance. So with this, I think the president, the army the president has set agenda for them, asking them to do the needful. He has set an agenda, and we hope that they are going to eliminate these people so that Nigerians can actually enjoy their fundamental human right to life, right to movement, amongst others.
Yes, Joyce, thank you for doing this with me.
Always a pleasure.
Viewer, we sincerely appreciate you for allowing us to do this show together, and let's do it tomorrow, same time, same station. This is the much we can take. Remember us, and bye-bye for now.